Hey everyone, welcome to the Identity Love Podcast, episode number 13. I'm Tracy Konane. I am a life coach and identity specialist for folks who have lost themselves in people pleasing and in their relationships and no longer know who they are. So I not only help you to understand how to be yourself, but how to be yourself in a way that you love being. And this episode is about a certain mindset, a certain perspective that I have had from a young age. I don't know where I got it from. I don't know how I started thinking this way, but it was the one thing that I feel like kept me going through all the ups and downs and my messiness and my extreme partner pleasing and losing my own identity over and over again and having the identity crises over and over. I feel like this is the one mindset thing that kept me going, that kept me continually growing more and more into myself, even when I felt extremely upset at myself, extremely stuck, extremely down on myself, feeling like I have no idea where to even start anymore. There were so many ups and downs and dark nights of the soul. And this one thing is what I believe helped me to go from somebody who had no idea who she was and was so insecure about everything that she was, into me now where I wake up and I feel so full of purpose and love for just my own existence as myself and just loving being myself and feeling fun in my own skin and enjoying my own expression of myself in the world simply for myself, before anybody else has an opinion about me, before anybody else says, oh yes, I'm so happy that you're the way that you are. I already feel that way towards myself. And this is what I believe is the unique thing that I somehow had from a young age. So I don't know what it was and how it started, but from a very young age, I was very creative. I just loved creating stuff. I would draw, I would write, I would arts and crafts with all kinds of stuff. And I just loved the creative process. I just loved the idea of coming up with an idea, an inspiration, and then collecting materials of, how can I make this thing, this toy that I have in mind? And then I go get the empty rolls of paper towels and I get the glue and the tape and all the stuff that I find in the trash, and I have ideas about it. And then I go through the process of putting it together and drawing on it and trying stuff. And if it doesn't work, I get upset and then I put it back together and then I find something else and I figure it out. And it feels so good because in the end, even though it's not perfect, even though it's wonky and there's mistakes in it and it's not exactly the way that I envisioned it when I started, I now had something new. I now had something that I did not have when I woke up that morning. I was able to have something created in my head where I was like, aha, this thing. And then I put it together in the best way I could with what scraps I had. And now I had something that was more or less in my own head, that thing. And like I said, even though it was far from perfect, it was just that idea that I could create something. I could take this stuff and make it into something of more of what I envisioned. That was the stuff that I just got off on. I was like, this is so cool. And I would spend so many hours of my free time playing and making things and just creating and being creative. And I was also a very self-conscious, self-aware kid, not self-aware and like, oh my God, I'm so enlightened, but self-aware in I was aware of what other people were thinking of me, what I was thinking of me, how I was acting and behaving. I was very aware of the way that I was being in life, to almost an extent where it was too self-conscious, where I'd be so shy, so quiet in class. And I would always be just thinking, oh no, what is someone thinking about me? So I had that from a young age. But at the same time, even though there were so many things that I had scrutiny about, and I was like, I don't like this thing about myself. Oh my God, I don't measure up in this way. Oh my God, I'm so much worse in handwriting than that girl. And even though there's all these things, I always just assumed it's okay. I'm kind of the same as all those scraps that I dug out of the trash and the Scotch tape. And that's what I am, in a good way. I saw myself as I'm just something that is a little bit of bits of trash right now. And I am eventually going to learn how to put myself together and rearrange myself and create myself in a way that I will eventually like. And I thought that's what it is to grow up. You decide and you create more of who you want to be. And I thought, I'm just a little kid. Of course, I don't know how to do anything. Of course, I suck at being myself. Of course, I'm making these mistakes. Of course, I'm doing all this stuff because I'm just supposed to figure out who I want to be more of, and I decide who I want to be. I am the artist of myself, and I am the art that I get to experience. So I choose, how do I want to be in the world? How do I want to think about myself? How do I want to regard myself? What do I want my personality to be more like? How do I want to adorn myself and dress myself and see other people? Do I want to be more cheerful? Do I want to be more positive? Do I want to be more thoughtful? Do I want to be more of a good listener? Do I want to be more playful? I just saw that there's so many different options. And it's not that I was thinking, okay, I can just pretend to be a certain way and I'm supposed to just fake it. It was more that I saw that it was up to me to create my own ways of thinking, to create my own perspectives, my own feelings and perceptions of myself. My own self-image, my own identity was going to come from me, from my own choices. And that whatever my parents told me I was and whatever I started off as, whatever that was, I can work on it and I can change it into more of something that I feel good being. And so I always assumed that I was something that you create. Like people, you create yourself. It is up to me to create who I want to be. So even though this sounds like such an empowering, amazing, magical mindset, there's a dark side to it. There's a dark side to it because when I was young, like single digit young, I was still in the mindset where I'm the artist. I'm the artist and I'm the art. So I get to choose that I want to be, if I want to be more like Miss Frizzle, I want to grow up and be more like Miss Frizzle. There was no limitations. It was up to me. And then once I started getting into the double digits, my teens, preteens, I began to pay attention to the quote unquote art critics, which is everybody else who has an opinion about me. So instead of me just being the artist of myself and trusting in my own creative visions, I began to really pay attention and get even more self-conscious about what the art critics were thinking about my own art, which was myself. So if my friend said, oh my God, your sense of humor is stupid, then I would think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my sense of humor? I have to change it for her. I have to figure out how to make her laugh and to be more like her humor. If someone said, oh, your hair is so boring, which is ironic because someone actually did say that to me, I was like, oh, what is wrong with my hair? I got to figure out what's the right way to be. I got to figure out how to just be what everyone else wants me to be so everything is all right with me. People would say I'm too quiet. I was so anxious about being quiet that I had to lie about it. I had to make up a lie. I think I was in freshman year in band. I wrote a letter to my section leader and told her that I was having problems at home. And that's why I was too, traumatized to talk. But in reality, I was just so shy. I was so socially anxious, but I didn't want anyone to think that I actually had a problem. So I just wanted to pretend that there was an excuse at home. That kind of stuff, where I really started to want to control people's perceptions of me and try to make myself into something that was what other people would find cooler or more acceptable. And that kind of got me into a bunch of trouble. And eventually when I grew up, when I started becoming a legal adult, that's when I was partner pleasing so much to the point where I didn't even know who I was anymore. And I would go through these ups and downs of really going through these beautiful periods of wanting to be my true self, and then immediately tearing that all down the moment that somebody else had an opinion, or my boyfriend thought that this other girl over there was doing it so much better than me. And I was like, oh no, I have to be more like her. I have to figure out how to get him to think that I'm better, that I'm good. And it was all about the art critics. It was about the critics. I wanted to make myself into a masterpiece by making myself something that everybody liked. And that was a disaster. It made me into the version of myself that I did not like being at all and wasn't good for anybody else in the end, which is ironic, but that's how it is. And so that was the dark side of believing that it was up to me to create myself, is that I would start to give in and create myself for other people's tastes, for other people's preferences. And if you know any great artists, the reason why they stand out so much and why they have such a distinct skill and look is because they themselves put their own style, their own stamp onto it, their own mark, their own distinct qualities. And I lost all of that, and I became a muddled mess when I was trying to be something for everybody else. When I realized this, when it finally sunk into me, into my mind, where I looked around and I realized, oh my God, I am actually pleasing everyone else. Because for a long time, I didn't actually see myself as a people pleaser. I thought I was just a nice person, and I thought I was doing the right thing, because at the same time, I was somebody who thought I was a bit of a rebel because I liked kind of edgy things and offbeat stuff. And I didn't really see myself as a conformist in any shape or form. And I was just like, well, I'm just a very nice, caring person. And then when it hit me of how much I kept giving myself away, giving bits of myself away just to please others, I had another identity crisis, story of my life, where I just was like, oh my God, I've just been trying to be a chameleon for everyone else. And that's why I don't like myself, because I don't even like the style of art that I'm being for myself. I don't even like what I've created because it's been created for other people. But then what happened every time that I had an identity crisis, which was basically every time that I had a breakup, every time that I realized I'm not being myself, which was a lot, every time I realized, okay, I just did something and I didn't even really want to do that. It was so many identity crises where I'm just like, who am I? I don't even know who I am anymore. Who do I really want to be? Who am I really? Each time I went through this, it was a dark night of the soul, mentally and emotionally. But on a deeper level, I never let it mean that something was totally wrong with me and that I was doing everything wrong. I only let it mean, okay, that rough draft didn't work. Let's crumple that up and let's start in the second draft. Okay, that creative craft thing that we're doing over there didn't work out. Let's just start again and do it again. To me, it was obvious that it was a creative process, that this was just all part of the creative process of finding myself, of learning how to be myself in my own style. So when I found out that I was doing it for other people's style, I kind of felt, even though I felt very upset about it, of course, I was just like, oh, wait a minute. So now I just have to find my own style. It's just that I was copying other people's style. And the thing that I knew was that all the great artists, whether it's musicians or architects or anything creative, right? Authors, they always started off copying others. We all start off learning how to draw a stick figure because we're watching somebody else draw a stick figure. We're all learning how to write based on the books that we love to read. It is going to be a bit of copying and feeling out and learning how to do this stuff. So for me, it was learning how to just be a person in the world And then once you get good at your craft, you break the rules and you create your own rules and you create your own style and you decide how you want to do it. And so that's how I saw it when I decided that I was going to go on my journey of stop people pleasing and to start finding myself. And so I didn't make it mean that it was this big, awful thing. It was more like, aha, this is just a turning point in the creative process. And so this is what was the mindset that I feel like helped me through all these constant ups and downs and dark nights of the soul along the way, was telling myself and believing. It was believing that this is part of the process and this is all good. And to see myself as art instead of just being like, oh my God, everything is wrong with me. Why is it so hard for me? This shouldn't be this way. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe there's something deeply wrong with me that I can't even be myself, that is taking so long, that I keep making mistakes, that I was acting this way for other people, that I had to be so needy for my boyfriend. I mean, of course I had those thoughts and I felt really shitty about myself many times. But at the end of each day, I was just like, you know what? This is part of the war of art, right? It's like, this is the pain of art, of creativity. There's going to be nights where you're going to scrap everything that you worked so hard on. You're going to realize you went the wrong direction because the thing that you had that you thought was going to work didn't work. And if you are creative in any shape or form, not just artistic, right? It's the way that you see life, the way that you think about things. You don't have to be good at art or something visually creative in order to be a creative mind. In fact, you just have to be human, because to be human is to be creative. Whether or not you're aware of it, whether or not it's your forte or not, if you are human, you have a creative mind. So this is actually so natural to us. It is so natural to us to have ideas, to have inspirations, and to want to grow into these better versions of ourselves, to create something different in our lives, to create and keep growing. This is why we don't like being stagnant, because we like to be art. We like to feel like we are growing into more and more and more, and not just being a finished product. And so it feels good when we see ourselves as art and when we realize that we are the creator of ourselves, because that's so natural to being human. Dogs don't do this, right? Cats don't do this. They don't wake up and think, how can I be a better dog or cat? And hey, maybe we can say, oh, that's so good for themselves. You can just wake up and be like, I'm great and perfect the way I am. But as humans, we're able to improve ourselves in ways that we want to improve ourselves for ourselves. And this is the art. And so I just wanted to say that when I saw it this way, it kept me going in a positive way. It kept my mindset clear. It kept my self-esteem above the bottom level. And it kept me seeing that, okay, you are just creating yourself. You are just becoming more of yourself. You are being art. This is the process. Nothing has gone wrong. This is the beautiful ups and downs of creating the masterpiece that is the person that you most want to be. And that is your responsibility as an artist. That is what you are supposed to do when you are creating who you want to be. And so it kept me going, and it kept me out of shame and out of self-disgust and all of that stuff. So I just wanted to say that, like I said, you are a creative person. And if you love thinking outside the box, if you love being somebody who is their own person and not a follower, not a conformist, you have to start to see yourself as this art thing. And that the fact that you might have lost yourself along the way, that you might have given into people pleasing, that you might have been a chameleon, that you change yourself for other people, it is not this horrible bad thing. It is you trying in earnest to grow yourself into more of somebody that you feel good as. And you just went in a little bit of an extreme direction. It's like if you're painting a canvas and you put too much red on it, it's okay. We just be like, okay, that doesn't look that good. There's too much of one thing. Let's decide what other colors we want to put on there. Let's decide how we can create this and put it in more of what we want it to be. Nothing is wrong. And I encourage you to start to see yourself in this way, to not get down on yourself, to not beat yourself up. This is just how you've learned to do your art, is to rely on what somebody else thinks, to think that the critic matters the most, to think that someone else's opinion of your own art matters the most, when you are the one living your own art. You are the one that gets to create yourself, your own way of thinking about yourself, your own way expressing yourself, right? Even if you stand up for yourself and you say, hey, I prefer this in my life, and you do the uncomfortable thing and start to do more of what you want to do for yourself, it does feel hard in the moment, but you get to reap the benefits of experiencing what it's like to be yourself when you're somebody who stands up for themselves and does stuff more for themselves. This is exciting news. This is empowering. This is you growing into more of your own art. And so this is just something that I wanted to suggest to you for your own way of thinking about yourself. It's not a requirement, of course. Everybody's different. This might not be exciting to every single person and feel like it resonates to every single person. But if it doesn't, I want to maybe inspire you to think about yourself in whatever way, shape, or form that helps you to feel more accepting and excited about your own journey. Because I don't think that the journey I don't think it's helpful to see this journey as a slog and to see it as like, oh, I have to go and do this to fix myself and everything is wrong and it shouldn't be this way. When to me, even in my darkest moments, it's always felt like a creative process. It's always felt like, okay, there's always something else I can do. There's a new way of going towards this. There's a new way of figuring out who I want to be and how I want to be in my life. And it just really stoked this fire within me to keep figuring myself out. And I believe that's what kept me going instead of just giving up and staying stagnant and thinking that everything is wrong with me. And if you want to look more into this in more of a so-called scientific way, I suggest you look at the book. It's by Dweck. I think it's just called Mindset. I'm going to put it in the show notes. But the book is about mindset. It's about growth mindset and fixed mindset. Growth mindset is when you see that your abilities, your traits, your characteristics are not set in stone. You can create and improve yourself, right? You're not a finished product. And fixed mindset is when you believe that this is just the way that you are and there's nothing else you can do about it and everything around you has to change in order for you to then feel differently about yourself. But the growth mindset, the creative one, where you create yourself, is the mindset for success. And we have both of them in ourselves. We're always on a spectrum. But once you start to realize that you have always been using this creative mindset, this growth mindset, when you've been pleasing others, because you have been essentially taking yourself and deciding, I want to be more like this for this person, which means you're creating a new version of yourself for someone else, which means you're being creative within yourself as a person. And all you have to do then is to use that same creative ability to start to create yourself in the image of your own creative desires, to decide, how do I want myself to be more of, and then start to create more of that person. This is why I talk about the coolest self, is because then you have an idea of your masterpiece. You have a vision in mind to start to create towards. And so it is such a different energy to see yourself as somebody who has been just doing this art and you innocently went too much in this one direction for somebody else. And you just have to start to relearn how to create for yourself instead. And this is the mindset that has made me feel so much more empowered during my most least empowered times in my life and has kept me going and kept me continually evolving in huge ways into myself, because I believe that I'm the artist and the creator of my life, and that if I did it for all my boyfriends and changed myself for all these other people, that I knew how to do it for myself, and that this is just the way that it is. This is empowerment. This is creativity. And this is just part of the creative process of being human, and nothing has gone wrong. Okay. So you are doing it beautifully. I want you to see yourself as art. I want you to think about yourself in creative ways and to know that you have this in you to go and do it for yourself and to create a version of yourself that you love being. All right, everybody, have an amazing rest of the year, which is maybe like a week and a half right now. And I'm going to see you on the next episode next year. All right, everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.